All right, Adrian, we can go ahead and get started. You let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is 12:02 p.m. and we are convening this Board of Directors special retreat for marketing and account services. The date is Wednesday, July 7th, and we are conducting this meeting via teleconference. As the waivers to the Brown Act have provided, we are able to do that through September 31st if we need to. So this is our welcome, and I'll turn it over to the clerk to please call the roll.
Great, thank you. Alameda County.
Here.
Yeah, was that a yes?
Here.
Yes.
Here.
Albany. Berkeley. Dublin.
I'm here.
Great, thank you. Fremont. Hayward.
Present.
Livermore. Newark. Piedmont. Pleasanton.
Here.
San Leandro. San Leandro.
Present.
Thank you. Tracy. Union City.
Here.
Community Advisory Committee. Emeryville.
I'm here.
And Oakland. Now we're not taking this for a quorum. I think a quorum is present. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. We have a quorum.
Very good, thank you. And just a note that our CEO will be joining us a little bit later in this meeting. So now is the time for public comment. This item is reserved for persons wishing to address the board on any EBCE related matters that are not otherwise on this meeting agenda. Public comments on matters listed on the agenda shall be heard at the time the matter is called. As with all public comment, members of the public who wish to address the board are customarily limited to 3 minutes. Actually, we have changed that. This needs to, we should change this on our agendas going forward. We're actually making a change to, did we decide on 2 minutes, Adrian?
2 minutes.
Yeah, so we're cutting down on public speaker time to 2 minutes just because of the length of these meetings. But you must complete a speaker slip, which there is a link on the agenda. And at this time, I will turn to the clerk to see if anyone has submitted a speaker slip, but I will also recognize those in attendance who are attending via Zoom and use the raise hand feature. Or if you're calling in, please press *9 to raise your hand and be recognized. But I will turn it over to the clerk to hear any public speakers for this meeting.
There is no one signed up for public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. I will close public comment at this time, and we will turn it over to staff to give the presentation on the market and account services update. And if you come up with questions, please do make note of them. I would like to handle questions at the end of the presentation from the board first, and then if we have time, we will we'll get to public questions as well. But I want to make sure, you know, there's a lot of information to get through, so I want to make sure that the staff has time to present and that the board gets all of their questions answered first before we turn to the public. So with that, staff, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Martinez. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annie Henderson. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Account Services. And for today's special board retreat, we're going to provide a fairly high-level overview of what this team does. And it may look a little familiar to some of you that are on the marketing subcommittee. But I think given some of the changes that, you know, our team, new initiatives that we're focused on, as well as the number of new board members, I hope that this is useful and helpful information to you. Next slide, please, Adrian. So we'll go over our team structure and the areas of focus. I think oftentimes we just say marketing, but actually this team is doing quite a bit. It's a lot of our main customer touch points. So it is very public facing, but we'll go over marketing, account services, and public engagement, as well as highlight some of our major activities or initiatives for the next 12 months. Next slide, please. So we have everyone's picture here since we haven't been in person for so long. And I think we have never been in person with some of our new board members. So here are the faces of the team. But we have, I have 3 direct reports. That's Dan Lieberman, our marketing director, Kelly Brezovec, our senior manager of account services, and Alex DeGiorgio as our public engagement manager. On Dan's team, we have Juan Cortez and Jamal Bernardez, who are both outreach and communications fellows. They have been with us since full-time since June of 2020. We were very glad to have them join our team during an unusual first year. On Kelly's team, we have our business account services analyst, Danny Kelly. Danny's been with the organization, I think, going on 3 years now. He started as a fellow, and became a coordinator, and now he is really focused on our largest commercial customers. And Gabrielle Ruxin joined us maybe a little over a year and a half ago or so as our customer care coordinator. And hopefully some of these others will have an opportunity to speak as we go through our presentation. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, there's really 3 main functionalities within our team. Marketing, you can think of as sort of very high level, and Dan's going to go a little deeper into this, but our social media, our website management, general brand awareness, events, and outreach, which we are now actually starting up again, which is exciting, and our advertising, as well as, I should have added here, our programs marketing, which is a transition for us as a team. We have been in sort of initial establishment mode, so creating that brand awareness, some identity for us as an organization, and really looking at customer retention. And now, as we have all these great programs being developed by JP and his team, we're looking for more of a call to action style of marketing to really encourage customer engagement. So then that goes over to our account services. That's our call center oversight, key account management, billing operations, which will share some really fascinating stats about the number of customer bills that go out every day, and our customer experience. And then public engagement with Alex is our community advisory committee oversight. He's engaged with them, kind of the primary point of contact, as well as primary point of contact for all of you with day-to-day questions. Of course, you have Nick, our CEO, that you can go to, but also your staff are engaged with Alex when they have questions about things that you want to do at a local level. For example, some of the default products will be changing in some of your communities coming up over the next 12 months, and Alex has been supporting your staff as they investigate and provide that information to your councils. And then also local emergency coordination. You know, in the last year and a half, that was a lot of pandemic work. And as we enter into the next, hopefully not 4 months, but probably 4 months or more, we'll be, addressing wildfire issues and public safety power shutoffs, as well as flex alerts and other things related to, beyond EBCE, things that really impact our state and our grid and our area. So with the next slide, I think I am turning it over to Dan Lieberman to speak more about exactly what our marketing team does. But I will note this is not exhaustive. This team gets a lot done, and these are really some of the main highlights.
All right, thanks, Annie. I think I'll just start, before I start talking to the slide, maybe just start at a really high level and start with the question why. Why does an agency like EBCE need to do all of these marketing tactics? And I think what we found is, we're a relatively new agency. Our brand awareness is low, but improving. We do customer surveys to determine what the level of brand awareness is over time. But generally, doing marketing helps us first to prevent opt-outs from our service. We want customers to be aware of our service. So in the event that they get a high bill, even just seasonally, they won't learn about us by looking at their bill, seeing a high charge and thinking, maybe that's why my bill went up and opting out. So we do a lot of work just around general awareness of EBCE and our role in providing clean electricity to customers. And then also, ultimately, we want customers to engage with us and enroll in programs. And they will only enroll in programs if they're familiar with our brand and understand the service that we bring to the East Bay. So those are the main reasons why we're doing these activities. As you can see here, we have many communications channels available to us. During the last year and a half under the shelter in place, we've really focused more on digital tactics, including social media, improving our website. We did a website redesign and improved some functionality there. We do ongoing digital ads, in addition to having organic content, we do digital display ads, videos, those sorts of things. We have a monthly newsletter. I encourage you to sign up for it. And we do targeted marketing for programs. So for example, we have programs that are not specific to EBCE, like encouraging customers to enroll in low-income programs like CARE or medical baseline or the new arrearage management plan. And we have dedicated marketing resources to encouraging customers who are eligible to enroll in those programs, as well as the programs that we specifically offer customers, like our Resilient Home battery plus solar incentive for homeowners, or we have a commercial kitchen electrification program now with a very generous incentive. We're going to launch a community solar program here soon. So those are the sorts of programs that we're encouraging customers to take action and enroll. Then we have a lot of notices. We have notices for new accounts. And we have required mailers. The power content label needs to go out every year to every customer we serve. Joint rate mailer, which compares EBCE rates to PG&E rates. That's a co-branded piece with PG&E, needs to go out every year at a specific time. So, we're doing literally millions of direct mail and email pieces, both by regulatory requirement and to do program marketing. And then, as I mentioned, we're doing surveys every 6 months to get a better understanding of our customer preferences and customer awareness of our brand, those sorts of things. And we're also doing a lot of more targeted outreach and education. That includes webinars. We've done webinars on understanding your rates and about solar and all of our programs. You can find those on the news and events section of our website. We do press releases. I would say we average maybe one a month or so. Have a couple coming up. So just trying to keep people informed about what we do. Our video content is performing well, so we're stepping up our video content. We recently did a 30-second ad with the Oakland Roots soccer team who we sponsor. We have a lot of branded collateral. As Annie mentioned, we're stepping up outreach events again. We did our first, or I should say Juan attended our first farmers market in a long time, and we did our first Oakland Roots game. We'll be having a booth at those games, the home games. And then a lot of the back end side is driven by technology improvements. As you'll see here, we do email using a government-only CRM program called Gov Delivery. So for example, when we send out our content labels, we can do that digitally through Gov Delivery, and it doesn't get delivered into the spam folder. It's sort of a for government agency only email tool that we've relied heavily on. Pardot is an overlay onto Salesforce. So we're just trying to get a little bit more sophisticated with our back-end operations, and also trying to expand our in-language content. We typically do our main collateral items in English, Spanish, and Chinese, simplified Chinese. And then also in email, we add links in Vietnamese and Hindi, I think, typically. But just trying to make our information more accessible to all of the customers throughout our service area. It's very diverse in terms of language spoken in the household. There's some fun facts over here. You can see there's some survey results from our customer awareness survey. We've really seen that improve over time, pretty consistent improvement over the surveys we've done. And then the million fun facts, we have over 500,000 accounts. So every time we send a power content label or joint rate nailer, we are sending out over 500,000 pieces. That happens twice a year. We're doing our enrollment notices by email now. So we've actually sent, I just did a little update. We've done over 1.3 million emails in the past year, just off of that Gov delivery platform. So saving a lot of paper, saving a lot of postage, and also meeting customers where they get their info, which is online. So next slide. All right, a little bit of homework here. If you're not already following EBCE on social media, we are @Powered by EBCE. We love to get followers. And so please follow us and share our content. And next slide. All right,
Thanks, Dan.
Over. Yep.
Yeah. So as I just want to sort of interlude here, that is a very good overview of what Dan and his team, Juan and Jamal, are doing, but not at all exhaustive. But we wanted to give you sort of some highlights, and then we'll go deeper into some of the initiatives later. But just want to recognize them for the work they do, because really anything you're seeing on social, on our website, in our mailers, that is coming through that team, and they get a lot done. So now I'll turn it over to Kelly Brezovec, who leads our account services group.
Thanks, Annie. Good afternoon, board directors and members of the public. Thanks for being here today to learn more about the marketing account services team at EBCE. So, we just heard about what the marketing team does, and I'll start off by talking through some things where we're also, our team also is sort of that another communicator to our customers, starting with our call center oversight. So I think most of the board and probably some members of the public know we do have an outsourced call center. And we're fortunate to work with another municipal utility that provides excellent service. They're really among the best in the business. And so the oversight can be more of a partnership at times as well, where we're able to get information from them as well on what do they think are the best things to do for some of our decisions, like writing up talking points about news items, what kinds of things make sense to share with our customers, and what kinds of calls we're getting from our customers. If there's a news piece in our territory, we know that we need to make sure that our customer service representatives know about that particular item in just right in time to be able to answer those questions. We're also writing up talking points about board of directors decisions and new policies, as well as programs. Dan referred to some of the EBCE programs. And so we also need to make sure that our team is ready to answer those questions. And just as those emails are going out in multilingual formats, our call center is also able to handle calls in both English and generally in Spanish as well. There's usually at least one bilingual staff member available to take those calls. And they have a language line, so a customer service representative can be on the phone with a translator and translate into any number of languages that where a customer might call in. So we do make use of those tools. I'll also just highlight sort of a benefit of our customer service team. So within even just the past week, I've read one request to opt out of our service, which is always a bummer.
But even embedded within that opt-out request, that somehow the customer had talked with our call center a couple of times and talked with some other folks. They said, hey, you know what? Your folks really did try to help me out, and they really did a good job. They were great to work with. I liked talking to them. I just want to go back to PG&E. It's hard to argue, with great service. Everyone has their own decision, but I think that just speaks to the competency and the value of our customer service team, in that even someone that doesn't want to be with us knows, they are having a positive experience. Next we have, so our key account management. Danny Kelly is our account manager for our largest customers. He's the first point of contact for those, we call them VIPs. And he also provides one-on-one attention for our smaller commercial customers that may call in, and is also putting on events to help out sort of what we call small and medium business customers. Earlier this spring, for example, he put on a series of webinars, partnered with our programs team to discuss energy efficiency, plus these new B rates that are out that changes the time of use. So that's really that sort of personalized service that our commercial customers get through working with Danny. On the billing operations side, so billing operations is sort of a behind the scenes work. We don't have a Facebook page for it. It doesn't come up that much in a public meeting. But really, every time you receive your PG&E bill, that's gone through a lot of different steps in order to get, printed out or emailed to you, and to be most of the time surprisingly accurate. I mean, we're sending out over 32,000 bills every business day. And it's amazing that most of the time they're right. There are some times when they're wrong. We have errors that come up through our, partnership with PG&E. Maybe there was a mistake or there was a mismatch of some sort. And so our team, we work through some of those errors that may come up and get those addressed. That brings us back over to the call center oversight, right? So if a billing issue happens, we've got to make sure that this customer service team knows so that they can answer the customer's questions, or we're sending out direct messages using Dan's email service, using GovDelivery, sending out messages in advance, telling the customer, hey, we know that you're going to see this error next month. Don't worry, we're going to fix it. So being kind of proactive in those communications. We're also working through that mass enrollment. Well, we've all gone through mass enrollment by now. There's just a lot of steps and different communication pieces that happen with mass enrollment. And I guess in this case now I'm talking about internal communication, as well as external with the customers, internal among our back office provider and EBCE and PG&E. There's a lot of sort of electronic communication that needs to happen to get those things handled. And every time a rate is updated, it's amazing, right? That our rates change and we manage to get billed on the right rate. That's not that there is some work that goes into that. If it's a rate change, Gabrielle on our team manages a spreadsheet that is a thing of beauty to get those rates updated in a really timely manner. And then we're managing things like these time of use transitions. So everyone who is in Alameda County was residential customers were transitioned to a new rate, unless they declined to participate, but transition to that new rate. We're making sure that those transitions are happening. Let's also just talk through a little bit more of some other things that we do. We're also working through implementation of some new programs with the California Public Utilities Commission. We've all heard about the arrearage management plan, so we're working on that. I think that we'll be leaning on our call center at
some point in the very, very near future to do some outbound calls, similar to what we did for some care outbound calls earlier in the pandemic. We'll be using them to make some calls and do some direct work with customers on the urge management plan. And then this other piece of alphabet soup here, DAC-GT, is Disadvantaged Communities Green Tariff. So that's a small community solar program that we're working through. But all of these programs that eventually come out of the California Public Utilities Commission and make their way to the actual customer, it requires, we have to implement those things. So that requires touching our billing operations and designing the program so that it can go through billing operations. So we're involved in working with other parts of our organization, other CCAs, PG&E, and the other investor-owned utilities to develop programs that can work for both us and for our customers, most importantly. We're also working on our net energy metering program management, which I'll touch on that because that is a pretty big undertaking. The net energy metering customers tend to be very active and invested, as we wish all of our customers knew as much about their energy bill as some of our NEM customers. And also, we're always making improvements to that program.
Kelly, do you mind pausing just for
Yeah.
a second? I see Supervisor Valle has a question that he'd like to ask at this time.
Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you, Kelly. At what point do we measure the success of the contact between us and the customers? Do you have a measurement tool that will tell us whether or not this is effective or not? And if somebody does talk about reverting back to PG&E, do you actually have that kind of encounter? And if so, what are the numbers looking like? If you've had those kind of reactions from people. And then lastly, at how the length of time that we will continue to do these contacts with customers as often as possible. Are they based on time or time of year, or when the opportunity for a change becomes available? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm not sure I understand the last question.
Yeah, the last one is,
can you clarify?
At what interval do we decide that these are very effective? Is it based on the time of year, or is it based on billing where options open for people to go with us versus PG&E?
Okay. So this is something, this kind of work, the sort of the opt-out, that is something that we track on a regular basis. We're looking very closely right now on a weekly basis. We're looking at participation in Newark, Pleasanton, and Tracy because they just went through enrollment. And I'll say on average, our participation rate for eligible customers hovers right around 95%. And we do keep tabs on that. It varies by community and by customer type, but it's generally around 95%. So we do keep tabs on that. As far as effectiveness of our communications, our customer service representatives, we do some regular quality control of that work, where we're listening to calls. Certainly that was work that we did a lot more at the very beginning of our partnership with our back office provider and our customer service team, but we do still pull sometimes just a random sampling of calls on a weekly basis to review and make sure that our customers are getting excellent care. And then if there is an issue, let's say Danny sees that there was a phone call from one of his top customers, he'll listen to that phone call, and we do provide feedback. If there is room for improvement, we do provide that feedback.
Great, thank you, Kelly. And colleagues, if you're able to hold your questions towards the end, I think that'll help us speed along. But if you have any burning questions, just feel, I'm watching the panelist and attendees list, and if any of the board members have a burning question, I'll certainly recognize you if you need to ask it right away. But Kelly, thank you. You can go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I think that was actually a great place to close. I like closing on 95% participation rate. That's an A. I'll keep it. Great. Next up, if we could go to the next slide, Alex DeGiorgio will talk about our public engagement efforts. Alex is a team of one, but he's mighty. Alex, you want to review this?
Yeah, thank you, Annie, and thanks everybody, the board members and members of the public. It's a pleasure to be with you. Yeah, you know, I think it's certainly fair to say that marketing and account services are forms of public engagement. So for the purposes of taxonomy, I would say that public engagement here is really about our collaboration and engagement with our local government partners, both in terms of elected officials such as yourselves, but also primarily with the staff at the city and the county and the other agencies that we serve. So we know that the city and county staff have limited bandwidth, have a million items on their plate, and that energy policy and EDCE are just one slice of what their day-to-day work involves. So it's really incumbent upon us to help them be conversant in the language of CCA generally and EBCE specifically. So these four categories are really the breakdown of how that works. Of course, there's the Community Advisory Committee, and as you all know, we've gone through a process of restructuring and expanding the committee so that it is more representative of the communities we serve, particularly since we now serve more communities than we did at launch. And the local government aspect, you know, with our relationships with staff, I'd say that's a big bulk of the day-to-day work for our public engagement. We, especially these days when it comes to helping your cities and your jurisdictions determine what transitions to make around Brilliant 100, for example, or in the cases of some jurisdictions, wanting to explore the possibility of opting up some or virtually all of the electric accounts to the Renewable 100 option. This is something where you know, we want to provide support at your council meetings, and I've had the pleasure of seeing many of you and your colleagues on the council. In fact, last night I had the pleasure of being at Hayward's council meeting, virtually of course, with Council Member Marquez and her colleagues, as everyone grapples with the issues of how to strike a balance between meeting the climate action plan goals that many of your jurisdictions have and that EBCE can play a role in fulfilling, with the true trade-offs that come with you know, the financial burdens that people are under today, particularly with COVID, but also generally. So we work with your staff on various levels, from the city manager on down, to make sure that we can provide updated and accurate information. Things, as you know, change a lot in the world of energy policy, and so we see it as part of our job to keep your staff very well informed. Also, of course, when it comes to local emergencies, we've had our fair share, unfortunately, certainly with COVID, as Annie mentioned, but also in fire season. You know, it affects us all in terms of both planned shutoffs for, you know, the power safety shutoffs that PG&E has enacted, but then also unplanned shutoffs or you know, the anticipated shutoffs that can come when there's a high wind event and a flex alert. We want to make sure that all of our customers, all of your constituents, are aware of any potential shutoffs and how they can adapt when we're in those situations. One aspect that's also been critical to our work lately has been the regular monthly meetings that we now convene with your city staff. So when EBCE first launched, Stop Waste, which is, you know, Alameda County's waste management authority, very graciously gave us some airtime with all of the staff from the member jurisdictions so that we could engage with them all at once and answer questions and present on key items. And now that EBCE has kind of expanded beyond Alameda County, and now that we're, we've been operational for a couple of years, we decided it was time for us to really kind of convene our own format, which Stopway still also actively participates in. And so EBCE Municipal Partners sounded like a clumsy title, so we're calling them the Muni Pals. And so each month we have a meeting with members of city and county staff from every jurisdiction so that we can stay engaged with them. And sometimes they have questions for us or initiatives they'd like us to explore. Lots of times we want to be making sure that they're up to date on any transitions that are occurring on EBCE's end. And that could also include state level policymaking at the CPUC, the CEC, or the legislature in Sacramento. And then the last bullet here I'll mention is new community engagement. So we had the pleasure of including and enrolling in Newark, Pleasant, and in Tracy over the last 2 years. And there may be more interest of that kind in the future. We're not actively soliciting new communities to join, but as I'm sure you're all aware that good ideas like to spread. I'd say they're contagious, but that's not a word I'd like to use these days. But now that Tracy has joined, it sounds like other jurisdictions are also exploring CCA generally. The city of Stockton just had a CCA feasibility study. And so on a very informal level, from time to time, they'll reach out to us with questions. And so we're kind of helping our neighbors get to know the landscape of CCA. I think I'll pause there, and if there are any questions about public engagement, I'll be happy to address those. Thanks, Annie.
Sure, thank you, Alex. We are going to now transition into sort of the upcoming main activities for the next 12 months, but Director Martinez, would you like me to pause and take sort of high-level questions from the board and the public?
I don't see any hands raised from the board at this time, and we'll save public questions for the end. Actually, Member Narum, please, you're recognized.
Thank you. Sorry, I was a little slow on the button, I guess. Alex, thank you for your presentation. You touched on something that's been a bit of a concern in our city, and that is notification on power shutoffs. We have been the lucky recipients of the planned power outages and also some pretty widespread unplanned outages. And I'm curious and would like to understand, and have been asked actually by residents, what's the role of EBCE in notifying customers? How does that work? And you kind of alluded to it, but I just was curious what the mechanism is.
Yeah, so since we aren't responsible for the power shutoffs per se, but we see that we can act as another channel of communication to help spread the word that that they're going to be happening when they're happening, and we participate with the county sheriff's office of emergency services. They track these shutoffs very closely, along with all emergencies, and I participate on with the group that they convene. And so when we get new information, either through that channel or through other channels, we like to turn it around as fast as we can to really through our contacts with your city and county staff, and also with yourselves. As you've probably noticed in the past, when we have information that there's going to be a planned shut off, or if there's a flex alert, then we'll reach out to you with the information that we have, and invite you to tap into your rich networks to help us get the word out.
Okay, and what about unplanned shutoffs?
Yeah, similarly there, when we have news of them, or when we can anticipate that they may be coming, such as when there's a flex alert during fire season, that's when we'll reach out.
Okay, I guess I was thinking more about equipment. If when there's an equipment failure or something that causes loss of power, to customers. Yeah,
I mean that since that's kind of on PG&E's side of the equation, that should be something that PG&E is communicating to. But since we communicate with PG&E on a regular basis, and Kelly in particular, we will also reach out to you with the information that we have. Kelly, was there anything you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I was just going to say, typically PG&E is required, they are able to give notice for those things, to provide notice directly to the customers. Sometimes putting door hangers on residential customers. If it's a large commercial customer, they'll make contact with the customer directly. I recognize though that if they're doing that, but maybe they're not also communicating with the city, and I could understand where that could be an issue as well. And I'll bring that back to PG&E and ask if they can include, they certainly have city contacts as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just as an overarching comment, anything to do with outages, equipment failures is on the PG&E side of things. We sometimes have notice, oftentimes we don't. When we do, we try to get that information out to our customers by providing like a pop-up on our website, informing our call center so that if anybody does call them, they're informed and can direct the customer appropriately. But I would also say, Director Narum, if you do continue to get questions, I would encourage you to direct people towards our Resilient Home program, which is providing an incentive for individuals to install solar plus battery backup. So with that battery backup, you can continue to have power to key features of your home, like your refrigerator or your air conditioning, during a power outage, planned or unplanned.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so feel free to continue, Annie. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Adrienne, could we go to the next slide? Actually, 2 slides. I think the next one's just yep. So as we look forward over the next 12 months, as a team, we've sort of grouped together a series of actions or activities into a couple key initiatives. The first being product and rate default transitions. So a big rate default transition happened in Alameda County for our residential customers in March of this year with the time of use transition, or I'm sorry, that was in May. March was for all the commercial customers, but that is now behind us. It was a smooth transition, and most of our customers should be benefiting from the residential time of use rate structure, so that's good. But going forward, the rate default transition for residential customers is coming to Tracy in February of this next year. But there are many default transitions happening on the product side. So as many of you might be familiar with, the City of Dublin's council decided to opt up their residential customers to Renewable 100. That will be occurring in October. That was also the stimulus for us to create a policy about a timeline for cities to request these types of changes and what we need to do on sort of the staff side in terms of outreach, procurement, and other communications. So that is Dublin, and sort of in that same bucket is now Berkeley, which I did have as a little asterisk. However, as of 6/29, they did officially, their council requested residential opt-up in March of next year and commercial in October of 2022. So those are now approved by their local city council. We'll still need to come back to the board. But then we also have our Brilliant 100 product sunset. So I think of that as a slightly different group, but that is going to impact those jurisdictions where Brilliant 100 is the default for their customers. So that's Albany, Hayward, Pleasanton, a small part of Piedmont, but very few customers impacted there. And then all of our voluntary Brilliant 100 customers throughout the service territory. So to date, Albany has decided that their customers who are currently on Brilliant 100 will get defaulted to Renewable 100, and that'll happen during the January bill cycle. In Hayward, they first voted on Bright Choice, but as of last night, they are now moving to Renewable 100, with the exception of their care customers. So apologies, I did not update the deck since it just happened last night. For Pleasanton, At this point, without council action, it will be, those customers will move to Bright Choice from Brilliant 100, but I know the council and staff has been talking to us about this, and there could still be future council action. But altogether, you can see there's a large number of customers that will be going through some sort of change for their rate or their product. There are outreach plans that we are actively working on with Dublin as the first one out of the gate. There's some back-end functionality that needs to be developed in order to support a good customer experience where they get, even though this is a default change, they still have choice. You can still choose to be on a different product. So we're working through those things to have a successful effort and implement these decisions made at the local city level. I will note that several of the cities have selected Brilliant 100 for their own municipal accounts. So that's Emeryville, Fremont, Livermore, Oakland, San Leandro, and the County of Alameda. Should you do nothing, come January, those will switch to Bright Choice. Otherwise, you just, because it is the accounts that you control directly, you just need to tell us where you would like those to move. And then generally within about a month, we can shift those accounts over. But just noting to you, your staff are all aware of this, and Alex has been talking to them about it. But that might be coming before you as a council. We could go to the next slide.
I see a hand raised by Member Marquez, Annie. So can we take a pause?
Yep.
Thank you, Chair Martinez. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I wasn't sure if the volume was good. I just wanted to thank staff and just to be completely transparent with my colleagues. We did vote a few weeks ago to set Bright Choice as the default, and then there was a reconsideration. And last night, it was a 6-1 vote. I will share with my colleagues that I was not in support of opting to renewable 100 for all customers. I just remain very, very worried about the timing of this and us coming out of COVID. I'm confident that we could convince people that this is the right choice for the environment. I just really wanted more time to do outreach. So on that front, I'm excited to hear that Berkeley is taking an approach of delaying the implementation. We will be going into effect in January, but I do want to know what efforts are being done. I'm hearing that campaigns to encourage customers to opt up aren't necessarily effective, but I'm just wondering if there's any plans to revisit that just in light of what everybody's been dealing with in the last 16 months.
So we actually had an opt-up campaign queued up and ready to go in March of 2020. And we put that on ice because we did not feel it was an appropriate time. I think all of our attentions were elsewhere, and there was a lot of uncertainty about what was going to happen. And then as the pandemic proved to be a lengthy event, we did not feel it was appropriate to be encouraging people to potentially increase their bill at a time when people were struggling. So we still have that campaign sort of planned out, mapped out, but have felt that we're still not quite at the point where we think it's an appropriate time to launch that. We are thinking about doing more on the C&I front. Commercial and industrial, which is our commercial customers. Thinking about doing a opt-up campaign targeted to those customers. But I think we're looking again at sort of begin some of that in January with about a 6-month plan, I believe it was, Danny, that I looked at last. In fact, we're meeting about it next week to discuss the plan. So that's what we have currently for opt-up plans. These changes, those would be voluntary opt-ups as opposed to changing the default product, which sort of takes a mass action to opt-up customers. They can still choose to opt down to the Bright Choice product to get some financial savings.
Okay, and will these discussions take place through the marketing committee as well, just to get input from board members? I just want us to be really sensitive to families and businesses that are still struggling.
Sorry, which conversations were you referring to?
In terms of just kind of updating the opt up and just marketing plans. I just want to make sure that we're being mindful of the current environment. As you mentioned earlier, there was you didn't opt out the campaign for opting up just because of the timing of what's been occurring in the region. So just want to make sure that our committee members are also weighing in on those issues as well.
Absolutely.
All right, we have another hand up from Vice Chair Lopez.
Thank you very much. There was a little bit of here in this conversation about opting up, and in one of the previous slides, Alex went over going to city council meetings and talking about it, sort of dovetailing with climate action plans. Is there an intersection that EBCE is sort of going with in terms of some sort of paradigm to the various jurisdictions about the intersection of the two and encouragement to encourage, opting up to Renewable 100? And also, I'll just divulge that we're in the city of San Leandro in October. We're going to be considering this in our facilities committee, and then with possible deployment to Renewable 100 next year. Thank you.
Yeah, so we as staff are not encouraging cities where we did not go to Berkeley and suggest this, or go to Dublin. It was something that was really developed by that council and their staff, and they came to us asking questions about, what would the cost be? So we could do a financial analysis. What would the timing be? So we have, Alex has gone and presented in response to the interest from the city, but we as staff are not actively soliciting cities to take this step. We do, of course, have a policy as an agency to be 100% clean energy by 2030, and that would be for Bright Choice. So within the span of now, we're looking at under 10 years, we hope that Bright Choice is we're aiming for Bright Choice to be 100% clean, which would then sort of eliminate this need to do any opt-ups, right? Because we would have a base product that is meeting the needs of your climate action plans and providing savings and delivering on all of the things that were the objective for when EBCE was created.
Thank you.
Member Hernandez.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add to Annie, correct. They don't come and solicit to our city. It was up to our council to help us be able to meet our climate action plan for the 2030 action plan. So that was the importance for our city, and every city is different. So, we're mindful of that. And at the end of the day, only like the majority of the customers were brought over, but then some other customers were not, and commercial was too. But Alex came out to do, to be able to answer any of the extra questions that the council may have, and he did a great job.
Great, thank you, Mayor Hernandez. Looks like we can move along.
Adrienne, if you could move to the next slide, please. And this will just speak to sort of the cross-functionality even within our team. And of course, we are always working across departments within our agency to implement these various actions. But just to give an example of on product and rate default transitions, what each group will be focused on. So the customer notification mailers is part of our product default change policy, as well as outreach plans with the city. So right now we're focused on the one with Dublin that will really sort of set a template and give us some learnings about what is most effective in communicating with customers on these. We haven't ever done a default change after enrollment. We have had cities choose something other than Bright Choice at the time of enrolling, but we've never done it sort of post start of service. So there'll be some interesting learnings there that then we will apply to future cities who take that action and make that decision. We'll be doing lots of social media content and then advertising through Google and Bay Area news groups and others. For account services, there's some back-end functionality that we need to put in place. These are the things that, they never show up in the initial policy decision, as they shouldn't. But as we think about how do we actually execute on this, we have to think about this functionality in the customer journey. And so for Dublin, where the current default is Bright Choice, people need to maintain that ability to choose. So prior to a default to Renewable 100, how do we give the customer the ability to say, nope, keep me on Bright Choice. I want to stay here. And so that is not functionality that we currently have. So we are working on that to be certain that customers continue to have a choice, even if we are sort of taking a mass action, because that's part of why we're here. There'll also be billing QA, so making sure that those customers that should be transitioned to a different product are call center preparedness, because now we're going to have, we already do have different product defaults in different cities, but making sure the call center is familiar with that. And then this is less critical in Dublin where it's just residential, but as we move into the cities where we're getting product changes for commercial customers, we want to make sure that they're aware of that too. And that goes for not only Albany and Hayward, but we have several large customers that voluntarily opted up to Brilliant 100 because they're interested in being good community citizens. And so we do want to make sure that they're aware that that product is sunsetting and educating them on Renewable 100 or Bright Choice if that is if they want to move in that direction. But it is a great opportunity, kind of going back to opt-up campaigns, talking to these large customers who voluntarily opted into Brilliant 100, encouraging them ever so gently to think about Renewable 100 as that product goes away. And then on the public engagement side, we already spoke, so Alex is the support for the city in your voting process. When you have questions, he's there to provide that information to the staff as they develop their reports and their recommendations. And he's also present at those presentations, present in quotes, now that we're virtual, and helps provide the data. So we can go to the next one, please, unless I don't see any hands. So we can go to the next slide. So the other large initiative that there's a lot of things within this, but we sort of drew another circle around as we look forward into the next 12 months is customer debt repayment and relief. So we've already mentioned on this call that there has been an increase in the number of customers who have unpaid balances on their utility bill and on their rent, and we've all been immersed in this discussion, and I'm more so you for your city councils as this impacts your constituency. So we have continued throughout the last, the first time we did it I think was in April of 2020. But we suspended our payment policy. So we do have a policy that says, once a customer reaches a certain amount of past due debt, we could send them to collections. We could also return them to PG&E. And because PG&E controls the disconnection for unpaid debt, that sort of increases the likelihood of somebody being disconnected if we return them to PG&E. So we suspended those policies. It actually expired on June 30th because we anticipated that it was set that PG&E was going to reinitiate its disconnection that has now been extended to September 30th. So Kelly is bringing an item to our July meeting on your consent calendar, just to extend our suspension policy to the end of September to match PG&E. And then I think that'll give us a bit more time to also discuss how do we as an agency want to address this. And one of the things that we know we want to do is encourage participation in some of the various payment plans that have been developed really pushed by the Public Utilities Commission, but one in particular is the Arrearage Management Plan, which gets customers onto a schedule of paying their current bill. And every time they do that, they get forgiven a portion of their outstanding debt. So this is, we think a very beneficial program to many of our customers, but we acknowledge, if you're struggling to pay your bills, staying current is not going to be easy either. So we're looking at ways to help continue to support customers to keep them in that arrearage management plan. And then we're also looking at things like the DAC GT, and which offers a discount to customers. So I think, there are other teams involved in this, but our role is going to be, once we get to customer engagement, getting people onto these programs, and then making sure from a billing operations standpoint, we're prepared to execute and make sure these discounts or debt forgiveness are applied to our customers' bills. So on the next slide, just quickly again, sort of the cross functionality, what each group within marketing and account services could be focused on as part of customer debt repayment and relief. Again, not exhaustive, but we know from focus group experience that, language barriers are often an issue for people being able to pay their bills or understand their bills. So we want to have content in multiple languages. And then we also want to develop different outreach channels and strategies. We'll be working on back-end functionality, making sure that debt relief comes through or that the DAC GT discount comes through. And of course, our call center needs to be able to speak to these programs and help assist customers that do call us. And then we are working, especially on AMP, we're looking to do some co-branding with the cities. We think, we have increasing brand awareness for EVCE, but it's really your city seal on our materials does lend a lot of credibility and trust. And so being able to co-brand with the cities and get information out about AMP and other programs is very helpful. And I'll pause as I know we had some chats come through.
I think that was just Supervisor Valle giving his regrets that he needed to leave. So thank you. Continue.
All right, we can go to the next slide, Adrian. I think this is my final slide. Thank you. So those were sort of the two buckets of major activities. We have the product and rate changes and transitions. And then we have sort of a customer debt repayment and relief. But there's still a lot of other stuff going on. And this, again, is even not exhaustive. But under marketing, we are really trying to shift to be more data-driven, which is easier with the digital stuff, but we know that we still need to have sort of multi-channel approaches that include non-digital, but we're trying to capture as much data from this as possible so we can see what is most effective and be able to reach our customers. We still have our required mailing, so you're going to see the joint rate mailer coming out kind of towards the end of this month, early August. We have our partnership with the Roots. Thank you again, board, for approving this. We're tabling, we're branding. We've got a lot of streaming promotions with them. We just developed a new component of this sponsorship whereby we are highlighting a community-based organization at each home game. And so we just want to promote the good work they're doing, as well as sort of, aligning our brand with their good work. So for every game, every goal scored by the Roots during that home game, a $510 donation will go to that CBO. They'll also be recognized. Their brand will be displayed on the digital board, and we're hoping that they can attend. So we have some tickets for them to use for their own staff as recognition for their hard work, or perhaps they can use it to sort of expand their engagement with their member base and offer them through a raffle or what have you. We will return to in-person events. So we're really focused, since we missed going out to Newark, Tracy, and Pleasanton during enrollment, we'd really like to get back out there. As Dan mentioned earlier, Juan was out in Tracy, I believe it was, for the farmers market and had, we track these things just with a clicker, but he had 80 interactions. People were excited to come over and talk to him, about their electricity while they're buying veggies, which I thought was great. I think people are just really eager to like get out and re-engage. You don't always get 80 interactions, but that was really fantastic. So we're looking forward to doing some more of that. And we will be out at the county fair, which is now towards the end of October this year, slightly different timing. And then we are under the marketing column here. You know, I feel like we've been very light in commenting about what we've done for programs marketing. Part of that is because, you know, we have been spread a little thin in doing sort of our overall marketing for the agency as well as the program. So we are accepting applications for a new role to support programs marketing. That's open till Monday. And then after that, we'll have someone on board who can really focus on creating strategy for go-to-market of our programs and helping us to increase our customer engagement there, which we have already been doing, but it'll be great to have someone sort of laser focused. In account services, we had that time of use transition for most of Alameda County residential customers in May of this year. So there's something called bill protection, which is after 12 months on that new rate, we will look at what that customer would have paid on E1 and what they did pay on this ETOUC rate. And if they paid more on the ETOUC rate, we will pay them that difference. And so we need to be able to get those credits out to customers in the next 12 months in May of 2022. We're updating our NEM policy. There were some changes approved by our board, so now we need to implement these. The NEM billing stuff, I wish it were more straightforward. It's always a little confusing. I will note here that Gabrielle on Kelly's team conducted a webinar for Understand Your Bill for NEM customers. We have 300 people register. I don't think we've ever had that many people register for a webinar, which was fantastic. And we had about 160 show up, like actually attend and participate. And I believe we had 120 questions in the Q&A feature. So that was really something, but clearly complicated bills when you're a solar company, but also a lot of interest. And hopefully we generated a lot of goodwill by being there as a resource and attempting to answer questions. Also for account services in this next 12 months we would like to expand the prompts in our IVR, which is the interactive voice recording. So when you call up and it says, enter your account number, you put that in. Okay, well, press 1 for English, press 2 for Spanish, said in Spanish. We would like to have press 3, press 4, press 5 in a number of other languages. And it won't always route you to a bilingual individual, but what it will allow the call center to do is to engage with that third-party service that has interpreters on call, and basically start a three-way call and be able to serve that individual in their language sort of from the very beginning of the conversation. We hope that that will increase our ability to provide education and service and help to our customers. We're also looking to potentially transition to some in-house support for the call center. This is part of an extension of the contract that we're doing with SMUD that came out of the RFP process we recently ran. And the call center may also, I say these may because this is all still in progress, provide what we're calling like a concierge function for AMP. So basically hand-holding a customer so that they can maintain their participation in that program and that they don't fall out of the program and then lose the benefit of having that debt forgiven. And then it's a small tile here, but it's a big effort for public engagement would be the new community inclusion. And primarily, you know, we are looking at the city of Stockton since they've already been doing work locally to investigate their interest, maybe San Joaquin County. And if we could, Adrian, if you could just click the forward arrow, we have a little pop-up timeline here that I just wanted to make folks aware of because we are very quickly getting to that first square, which is any new city who wished to join our JPA would need to have a resolution passed with their city council or their county board in September, as well as the first reading of the local ordinance. By the next month, they would do the second reading of the ordinance, roughly November. We would bring this back to you as our board to say, do you accept this new member into the JPA? And then in December, the board would need to approve an amended implementation plan that gets submitted to the PUC. And that would allow us to then begin service to a new member community as early as January 2023, because there is that year-long wait period. We don't have to meet these milestones. This could all shift. It just means that that final block becomes January 2024 rather than January 2023. But just wanted to be clear that there's sort of the critical next few months if other jurisdictions were interested in joining EBCE for the next possible enrollment period. And I think with that, I think we have maybe one more slide. Let's just wrap up. Yeah, don't forget your homework. Please follow us on social media.
Great. Thank you, Annie. It's so great to hear about all the work that your department is doing. And colleagues, at this time, after that great presentation, we will go ahead and take board member questions. So I will recognize you as your hand go up if anyone has any burning questions. I certainly have a whole list myself if you don't have any. Wow. Seems like you've answered all of our board's questions. Oh, there's Brittany Kick from Livermore. Member Kick, you are recognized.
What can we as board members help you with in spreading awareness throughout our communities? Something I've talked to another board about was, doing like, I'm also on the bus board and doing like a board member on the bus and like, filming some little videos and letting them use that to, but what are some things that we can do because we are representatives, not only of our cities, but of EBCE, and happy to help in any way if you can think of some things for us to do.
Sure, I'll kick that off, but other team members may have additional input. First of all, thank you for the offer, because I think we have this amazing network here with our board that, to leverage the fact that we are a government agency and use your communication channels to get out critical information like these repayment plans, like Resilient Home that helps people, maintain critical loads during power shutoff. So I think we have been sending out some newsletter content. Many of you are sharing that either through the city's newsletter or your own individual newsletters. So please continue to do that. I know several of you have provided us feedback on sort of critical events or events that we should attend or sponsor. That form is still open. So if you have new ideas, please feel free to send them over to us. As I mentioned, we have been working with your staff on doing some co-branded mailers and emails to promote AMP. Again, that allows us to leverage, I will re-email the form, absolutely. It allows us to leverage, really the trust and goodwill of your city organization to get people's attention. But with that, I'll pause and see what else the team has for an ask.
Hey, this is Dan Lieberman. I'll just, in addition to what Annie said, I think she might have mentioned earlier that we've been doing a lot of Nextdoor posting. We've had a Nextdoor agency account, but we're recently notified by Nextdoor that they're not going to make that available anymore. So, we had been doing a pretty decent business there, communicating with your communities via Nextdoor, and that channel will be shut down for us, or actually it has been. So any possible opportunities for us to share information to you through your agency Nextdoor account, or if you get, if you see misinformation on Nextdoor, for example, and you need it corrected, we can't post to that, but we're happy to provide, data-driven talking points around whatever information you're seeing, and you can use that how you wish. And then, yeah, any other opportunities to share information on social media in your newsletters, really helps us to not only to share info, but build credibility as an agency. And then, that makes things easier for us. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Dan. And member Kick did type into the chat. Please email that form for the events so we can share with you upcoming events as all of our cities are reopening. And that farmers market is just one example. People are hungry for human contact, so let's take advantage of that. Member Kick, your hand is still raised. Do you have further questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Dan, if you could, is it just that our account is being taken down, or they're deleting the ability for cities or municipalities to have accounts? Do you know what the reasoning is behind that? Did they give any information?
I got very little information, but I do have a call scheduled with Nextdoor with our account manager on Friday. But I just got an alert this week saying we're not renewing your contract and that they're not offering the agency account to us, I believe, community choice energy agencies going forward.
That is a bummer, but thanks for looking into that.
Yep. Yeah.
Great. I guess we'll have to go on our personal accounts, Brittany, and put up the facts.
Great. I try to avoid Nextdoor, but
I do too.
I guess I'll do it
Deleting
for
it.
you, EBCE.
Yes, we have to do it for our jobs, unfortunately. But I personally, I try to stay off there as much as possible. Okay, so I have a list of questions. Dan, while you're up at bat, the Oakland Roots ad, where can the public find that? Where will they be seeing that?
So that is saved on our YouTube channel. And then we've been placing it. We have an advertising contract with Comcast. So for example, we were running that on streaming service through Comcast.
Excellent.
Boosted on social media.
Perfect. And if you haven't sent that
It
around to
also-
the board, please do distribute that as well. We can't wait to see it.
It also is played during the Roots games that are televised on Coffee TV, Channel 20, which is broad access.
Great. Excellent. And then for the power content labels, I understand we're using that Gov Delivery email. We're also still mailing them. So the folks who are getting the email, are they getting mail as well? Kind of like double the delivery right now?
Not sure who's going to answer. I can take that question, I suppose. So for the power content label, we will email to customers who have an email on file with PG&E, which is most of our customers. At that number, the portion of customers with an email on file with PG&E is increasing steadily. I think due to the PSPS, the Public Safety Power Shutoff events, is really inspiring customers to give their contact info to PG&E and use that. So it's, probably 70% now of customers, just throwing a number out there. It really varies from city to city. And then for other required notices, like when we did notices to Newark, Tracy, and Pleasanton, we did the first notice as a hard copy mailer first to make sure that customers got something in their mailbox, and then we followed those up with email. So we're still doing both methods in certain circumstances, but for the power content label, we do digital for those who have an email on file and hard copy for those who don't.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. We really are saving paper. My next question is for Kelly. So we're planning on doing those outbound calls for our care customers and our care qualified customers to get them onto the AMP program. I'm just wondering if we're also going to have a text component, because I know there are some folks who, when we don't always have that language help available, many people rely on friends and relatives who have English language proficiency to help them through a process. And when it's via text, I feel like they're more on their own timeline than getting someone to help them immediately who can help them translate a live human. So I'm just wondering if you guys are exploring that, and if you're not, I hope to encourage that capability for this specific outbound use of our call center.
Yeah, thanks for that. We are looking at options that would allow us to do text.
Great.
So yes, I don't have a timeline or anything like that on that, but we are trying to use all methods of communication that we can.
Fantastic. I just
will,
think that would be really helpful, because then people, if they need to go on Google Translate, they can take all the time in the world if there's an online option for them to do it, and reaching them via text is critical, I think.
Right now, I will say that, sorry to interject, the AMP application is administered by PG&E. And so I believe at this point, application is only over the phone.
I see.
And so I don't know what their plans are for text, but we have been looking into text as just a way to notify and educate consumers.
Great. Yeah. And getting them, at least hooking them in, I think, and alerting them of the opportunities via text is important. And then my next question is for Alex, for the Muni Pals. Love the name. So for the Stop Waste Technical Advisory Committee, the board receives the minutes of the tag meetings. So I'm wondering, just want you to put that in your consideration if you have if you have a specific agenda that you're addressing, if that can come back to the board as an information item. We don't need to talk about it, but it could be attached to our board agendas. That I think that's helpful for the public record and for the board as well to know what our staff is doing.
Yes, certainly. That's a great suggestion, Mayor Martinez. Thank you. Yeah, we could certainly provide the agendas. We haven't been taking minutes. I take informal notes, but we might get to the point where we do, and at that point we could certainly share the minutes. But for the time being, we could certainly share the agenda. We do put together a formal agenda for each of these meetings. I'd be happy.
That'd be great.
It's a great suggestion.
Thank you. And then I just want to congratulate staff on that NEM webinar. I just got my first NEM bill that was 11 pages, and I have no idea what I was looking at. So I'm sure that those over 150 people, 160 people were very, very happy to get clarification and have the time and the forum to get that explanation. So congratulations on that. There definitely is that audience. And then regarding the true up for the time of use folks, maybe true up isn't the right word for that, but the compensation for the bill protection for those folks who have been on time of use for a year and would have done better at the E1 rate or another rate. I'm wondering if there is a consideration or an ability to time that credit so that it coincides with the annual spike in electricity charges, just that naturally comes in the summer when people start turning on their air conditioning. Because I know that's just we have that time in the summer and we have that time in the winter where people's energy bills go up for whatever reason. And I feel like those credits do the most good at those times to help smooth out people's monthly bills. So if someone could speak to that, if we have any flexibility.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, Director Martinez, I think another thing that our board can do is speak just as clearly as you did about people's bills go up in the summer every year, and they also spike again in the winter due to increased energy use. I mean, that's really helpful to hear someone who doesn't work for a utility with that knowledge. So thank you very much for that. I guess this is being recorded, so we can throw that out there. Director Martinez knows this stuff. So she knows energy. Ask her any questions. So also, fortunately, because our time of use transition happened in May, we do expect that we will be issuing those credits in the following 2 months, so June and July. So that will
Perfect.
nicely coincide.
Perfect.
For Alameda County, for the city of Tracy, they will be issued their credits in March and April of 2023. So it won't line up as nicely for them, but possibly, you know, if it goes out in April, it'll coincide with that climate credit, giving them an even bigger credit that month if they qualify. I will add, Annie mentioned this, most customers are net benefiters. So most folks will actually see that their overall bills over the course of 12 months go down. And it really is a full 12-month cycle, like you'll experience with your new photovoltaics.
Great, thank you. So that was the entirety of my questions. Thank you so much. And I will at this time check in with our city clerk to see if anyone has submitted electronic comment for this meeting. And I'll remind anyone joining us via Zoom that you can use the raise hand feature to be recognized, or if you're calling in on the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand in the Zoom application. So Adrian, is there any comments that we need to enter to the record?
There are no comments for this portion.
Very good. And I actually do not see any hands raised. So that'll conclude the public comment and question section of this meeting and come back to panelists. Member Lopez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair Martinez. I just want to thank you very much and congratulate you on your first meeting as our chair and all your dedication, as well as everybody here today in the middle of the day. I hope you're safe and happy throughout the week. Thank you.
Great, and I'll echo those sentiments. Congratulations on your vice chairship, and thank you, staff, for a great presentation. It was very easy to follow. I'm very pleased, and I'll state for the board that it's great to see all of the progress that's been made, you know, from where we started, and just building on all of those successes to really stay connected to our customers. And those numbers in terms of how many folks know what EBCE is and what it does, it's very impressive from 2018 to now, the impacts that we're making on our community. So let's keep up the good work. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you at I know we've got a finance meeting and a special meeting on Friday, and then a regular meeting later in the month. So I will see you then. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.